Alright, good morning. It is May 9th, 2017, about 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I just wanted to do a quick update and earthquake alert and watch for the next 4 or 5 days. Just about probably an hour and a half ago, maybe a little longer, there was a 6.8 near 7.0 magnitude large deep earthquake over here in Vanuatu in the West Pacific. That large deep earthquake will transfer seismic pressure up to the surface, and then that pressure will transfer along these plate boundaries, these lines in red that you see here, fault lines and fracture zones across the Pacific plate. I had posted immediately on my Facebook page an earthquake update regarding this, and specifically mentioning that that pressure would transfer across the plate as it was deep in the asthenosphere underneath the plate, and because it was deep and underneath the plate, it can transfer very quickly across the plate as it's unobstructed over to Central America and South America. And within just a matter of a few minutes, there was a 5.2, which if you look at the EMSC, which is the European version of the USGS, this 5.2 right here is also showing upper 5.8, 5.7, so likely a near 6.0 magnitude earthquake within just minutes following the Vanuatu. So this was an hour and 23 minutes ago, and 25 minutes later, all the way across the Pacific plate in Guatemala, you had a near 6. So that pressure right there is pretty big. It's transferring very quickly. I expect that this pressure will also transfer up to the surface, not across the plate. You know, it's already doing that, but it will transfer up to the surface and produce seismic activity in the Fiji Tonga region, down here to the south in New Zealand, the Kermadec Islands down in here. It will also transfer to the west into Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea, the Indonesian islands, western Sumatra, Philippines, Taiwan. This is an earthquake from yesterday in Japan, also a 6.0, just showing that there's large pressure over here in the West Pacific. Pretty significant seismic pressure transferring along the plate boundary up into the Aleutian Islands in Alaska. As you can see, it was a 6.2 yesterday. All these gold dots represent earthquakes within the last 24 hours. The red dots are within the last hour. As pressure transfers along up into here, you'll see earthquakes popping up here. We have several volcanoes going off in these areas as well. Right in here, there's an volcano. Up into the Kuril Islands in Kamchatka, Russia, you have several volcanoes erupting and active all along the Aleutian Island chain in Alaska, and then that pressure transferring down into this area in here, known as the subduction zone, the Cascadia subduction zone. There's been a slow slip event happening over here for some months now. As that happens, the pressure transferring kind of gets stuck right in here. Some of that seeps along down under here into Northern California, Oregon, Washington. Eventually that pressure comes down and transfers through into the New Madrid seismic zone, reaching down into parts of Texas and then back up and expending itself out here in the Midwest at the hydraulic fracking operations in Oklahoma and Colorado, Tennessee, in this area. Let me take a look at this. This is a 3.6 in Medford, Oklahoma, a near 4.0 earthquake right in the center, right at the fracking zones. If you don't believe that the fracking and oil, gas extraction, hydraulic pumping operations have anything to do with earthquakes, we can take the coordinates from this earthquake right here and we can drop that down and check it out on Google Earth. And just give that a second to load. It takes a little bit of time. We'll drop these coordinates right here, and we'll hit search, and we're going to zoom right down in onto that specific earthquake. As you can see, I'd already marked some of the fracking operations. So here's our 3.6 near 4.0 earthquake in Oklahoma. I'm going to zoom out. Generally, the geologists that are studying the relationship to fracking, hydraulic fracturing, and earthquakes look within 6 miles of the epicenter. So just to get an idea of what 6 miles looks like, we're gonna zoom out a little bit, give you an idea. So this is the 6 mile radius, anywhere down in here in this areas. So we'll just stop right there, we'll zoom in, we'll take a look and just see. So you're already probably starting to notice these little dots. These are not farms, these are not houses, these are not buildings. When we take a look, we'll just pick one and zoom right down in on it and take a look at it and see what's there. See all these pads, they all look very similar. We'll zoom in a little closer. And as you can see, there's your storage tanks and there's your pumping equipment right here in the center of these pads. So you can just go down, we'll take a look at another one of them here. There's another one right here. So again, if you will take note of that pad, that's the signature. This is what you want to look for. And as you can see, there's plenty of them right within a few miles of the earthquakes. This is where they're drilling down into the earth and pumping it with fluid to fracture the earth underneath and release the gas and oil and mineral deposits and natural resources underneath the earth. The problem is there are so many of them that they're creating literally a weak point within the plate where seismic pressure coming in from the west is able to expend itself right in here. So as you can see right up here to the north of that earthquake, I had marked some of them. We'll just take a look and see how far away that is. So, 40 miles. This whole entire area is surrounded by hydraulic fracturing operations. Take a look on them. We'll look at some of the ones that I've looked at earlier. Some time back I started marking them, but there's too many to mark, so I just gave up on that. We'll just zoom down in there, take a look at some of these. Anyway, so I think you get the point. You can download Google Earth, do your own research if you want, but there's definitely plenty of these hydraulic fracking operations going on in the Midwest. And I'll zoom way out just so you can get an idea of where that is. So here's the central United States, Oklahoma, Colorado, Nebraska, all up in here. Texas. All these hydraulic fracking operations, they are giving us cheap oil, but we have to pay a price, and that price unfortunately is increase in seismic activity right in this area that goes up along in here, called the New Madrid fault line. It runs from up here in Yellowstone all the way down to parts of Texas, comes back up through the Midwest, comes over here to the east, dips down into parts of Georgia, Tennessee, comes up through Tennessee, It runs all the way up into here. That is the New Madrid fault area right in here. So as pressure comes in from the West Pacific, it redistributes itself all along the plate boundary, along these fracture zones that you see that run along the top of the plate under the ocean. That pressure comes in and then transfers down here and then eventually over here to the east. And again, because of all the fracking going on here, it's expending itself right here, as opposed to traveling underneath the plate and out to the mid-Atlantic ridge. So that's definitely something people need to keep their eye on. I'm not necessarily against hydraulic fracturing. It's just that I believe that the science needs to be a little more rigorous in determining what the effects will be as far as they relate to earthquakes. We certainly don't want a major earthquake to happen right in this area, as all the transport lines, products coming in from the ports from the west coast and making their way across the country can be disrupted for a long period of time if a major earthquake happens in the Midwest and disrupts those transport lines, those interstate systems. If there's a major earthquake in here that destroys any of the major interstates that run across the country, within hours after that, you can expect your Walmarts everywhere along the East Coast to be empty within hours. So you definitely want to update yourself and get educated about hydraulic fracturing and how they relate to earthquakes. So that's just a side note. We'll go ahead and go back to the USGS. And again, just to recap, large deep earthquake, 170, 180 kilometers, 7.0 earthquake right here. That pressure will come up to the surface. It will transfer along the plate boundaries on a semi-fixed trajectory and produce large shallow earthquakes up at the surface where people can feel them, where damage is caused, and possible injuries and death can even occur. And that pressure will also produce a larger shallow earthquake, possibly in the 7 to 8.0 range, anytime over the next 7 to 10 days in this region right up in here, in Japan, Philippines, Indonesian islands, anywhere up in here, as that pressure begins to transfer. And again, up in here into Burma, Myanmar, Nepal, northern India, Pakistan, Afghanistan. Eventually that pressure transfers through the Middle East countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Iran and Iraq, and then up into Turkey, Greece, and ultimately up into Italy. So we should see an excitement and an increase of seismic activity in this region right in here over the next 2 or 3 days. We should see an excitement of activity up in this region right in here and here. Also, again, across the plate, underneath the plate, this pressure will transfer. It'll run into the west coast of Central and South America and hit this area like a wall. So you should see an increase of activity in this region down here in Chile, Argentina, Bolivia, up into Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Costa Rica. Eventually that pressure from here is going to transfer up into the Caribbean island area, into Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. Eventually that pressure can sometimes expend itself out here at the mid-Atlantic ridge, or it can circle back around into Venezuela up in this region up in here. So those are the areas that I would watch for over the next 4 or 5 days, possibly a week, maybe even 10 days. We're looking for a 7.0 to an 8.0 in this region here, and then large shallow earthquakes anywhere down to the south and over to the west over the next few days. So as I've mentioned in my last video, which is quite some time, it's been about a month since I've done a video. I started a new job, but I certainly do appreciate the patience of those people who have taken the time to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can reach out to me over here on my Facebook page, You can also follow me on Twitter, and of course please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do share a lot of videos by other people, just news, current events, things that are going on around the world. In the meanwhile, while I'm not able to make videos, I do put updates on a regular basis regarding earthquakes on my YouTube channel. So I hope you'll share this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, find me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter. I hope you guys will have a blessed week. Thanks.